elections have consequences, right? And this is what happens if Kamala Harris becomes a president. They have unveiled their tax plan of how much money they're going to take from you and it's going to go to the U.S. government. By the way, when you hear this tax plan, we're going to break it down. Most people don't have time to go through this. We will in a very fast way because here's what's going on. The constant narrative you hear is the wealthy don't pay their fair share in taxes, right? It's the poor that pay the taxes, but not the wealthy. Watch this. Bottom 50% of taxpayers in America versus the top 50%. What percentage of all the taxes in the U.S. do you think the bottom 50% pay? You ready? 2.3%. You know what the top 50% pays? 97.7%. Now, you may say you're a Kamala person. You may say, well, Pat, how about the top 1%? It's the top 1% that's not paying any of the taxes. Really? Here's a chart for you. The top 1% pays 42.3% of all the taxes the government gets. So what the hell is this narrative about the fact that rich people don't pay their taxes? By the way, very simple question you got to ask. This unrealized capital gains that they're talking about on what's going to happen to people over $100 million, we use ChatGPT to find that if this were to pass, how much a lot of the wealthy people like Musk would have to pay just in unrealized capital gains. We'll show you the number. But the main question you have to answer is the following. Would you rather have all this money go to the government and see how they handle the money? Maybe it'll end up in Zelensky's hands. Or would you rather have this money be in entrepreneurs, job creators like Musk that continue to reinvest into the companies and grow it? Who would you rather trust that money going to? We're going to talk about all of this stuff today. Okay, so if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And before we go through the entire tax plan Kamala has, let's look at a few different things. Number one, yourself. If you own stocks, if you have money in the stock market, as of July 1st, 2024, the market cap of U.S. stock market was $55.2 trillion. In the last 30 years, the return has been roughly the S&P 500, 10.7%. 158 million Americans own stock. That's 61% of adults. The top 1% owns 54% of the stock. The top 10% owns 89%. The bottom 90% owns only 11%, but the bottom 50% only owns 0.6%. So they don't have a lot of money in the market. Now watch, this whole thing when you look at the source of income by AGI percentile, this income source for people doing their returns. It's all returns, then you go to the top 1%, top 0.1%, et cetera, et cetera. Blue represents wages, yellow is your investment, gray is retirement income, and orange is business owners. So if you focus on the 0 to 80%, that's the bottom 80% of earners, right? Most of their income, nearly 80% of their income comes from wages. Small portion comes from retirement, that could be Social Security, 401k, and annuity. Very small percentage comes from their investment, and then you got some from their business owner side, the orange. But go to the top 1%, right? That's the 99.99.9. Half is wages. Then you have a little bit from retirement. Look what happens to the yellow. That's the yellow, the investment they want to target. Then you have business owner, right? Now go to the top 0.001%, all the way at the bottom. These are the billionaires, right? Very small is wages. Majority is what? Is investment. You don't even find anything on retirement. And then you have business owner. That yellow is what they want to target. That's called the unrealized capital gains for many. And so if you look at it and say unrealized capital gains, what does it look like? Here's a basic chart to look at. Okay, this chart here tells you in 2022, we don't even have the 2024 numbers. We're just going to look at 2022. Red is unrealized. That means taxes haven't been paid on that. You bought something for $100,000, a stock. Now it's worth $1 million. The $900,000 that you haven't paid taxes on, that's unrealized gains. That's how much it's not been taxed. And even if we break it down a little bit more, this may give you a little bit more context. From 89 till 2022, $19.5 trillion of capital gains is realized and has been paid taxes of $3.4 trillion. The 48.2 is unrealized. The government wants to tax that. That's what Kamala Harris wants to do. They want to tax the unrealized gains. So again, before we go through the Kamala thing, the main thing I want you to think about is the following. Kamala Harris proposed a billionaire minimum tax target. Individuals with a net worth of $100 million or more, requiring them to pay a 25% tax on their unrealized gains, profits on assets that haven't been sold. So you own the stock, you own this company, you haven't sold it. The money hasn't come to you. It's sitting there. It's paper rich. She wants 25% of that to be taxed. So we asked ChatGPT. This is what ChatGPT told us what it would look like if they, by the way, we put the entire tax plan in ChatGPT. That's her plan from her words, their group. And we said, if this was the case, how much would Musk Bezos, Gates, Arnault, all these guys, what would they pay? This is what ChatGPT told us. Musk's unrealized gains is $92 billion. He would have to pay $23 billion of that unrealized. Bernard Arnault has $17 billion. He would pay 4.25. Jeff Bezos will pay 17.5. Gates $8 billion. Ballmer 11.3. Zuck 20.6. Page 10.7. Ellison 7.8. Sergey Brin 10.1. Warren Buffett 3.2. Now you may say, who cares? These guys can afford it. What's the big deal? Why are you protecting these billionaires? That's not the point. You ready? Let's say you're 62 years old and you have $700,000 in your 401k. You're getting ready to retire in the next 3 to 7 years, right? All of a sudden, this becomes a law. And billionaires' incentive is like, wait a minute, I have to pay this much taxes. Yes, guys, we got to lay people off. We got to fire people. Who? A quarter of the entire employee. We're firing everybody. Are you serious? Yes, because I got to find a way to pay these taxes. I don't know how to do it. I'm going to go broke. Well, that's not fair for you to do this. I have to do it. Boom. The market reacts. All of a sudden, the market tanks 50%. You're 62 years old. You had $700,000 in a 401k. You were hoping to retire by 7 years old, maybe 65 years old. That $700 becomes $350,000 overnight. How much longer do you think you have to work? Oh, it's not going to affect average middle Americans. We're only targeting the wealthy, not average and middle America. Really? Really? What do you think these guys do? You think when the money comes in, they just go buy exotic cars that reinvest into the company? How do you think a company gets bigger by itself or somebody risking, constantly reinvesting? They're delaying the outcome of them taking money off the table. That's a lot of risk when you have paper wealth. So somebody could be worth, there was a time on paper, I was worth a couple $100 million. But in cash, I was only worth $5 million. So, you are so rich. On paper, I am, but if this thing goes out of business, I'm not worth $200 million because we kept reinvesting. So now, let's go and look at this thing, because instead of just looking at all these numbers, let's see how much money Kamala and them are going to be getting. So if you look at their chart, okay, this is again from taxfoundation.org to look at. Here's what you'll come up with. I want to go through all of them, and then I'm going to show you what the total number is at the end. So, one by one. This is just for individual revenue raisers for taxes to the government. Raise top tax rate on individuals to 39.6. If you go all the way to the right, you'll see from 2025 to 2034, that's going to generate them an additional $170 billion in 10 years. Next one, tax unrealized capital gains at death over $5 million. Impose a 28% tax rate on capital gains over $1 million. Another $171 billion. Expand a net investment tax base to active pass-through income. Another $257 billion to the government. Raise the net investment tax income from 3.8 to 5%. Another $125 billion. Raise the additional Medicare tax from 0.9 to 2.1. Oh, middle income's not going to pay for it. Who the hell pays that Medicare tax? Only people making over $400,000? Everybody does. That's another $258 billion. Make permanent the limit on excess business losses for pass-through firms. Another $20 billion. Next one, 1031 exchange, $500,000 in gain, $20 billion. Tax carried interest as ordinary income, $6.7 billion. Create new limitations on high-income taxpayers with large retirement account balances and increasing minimum required distribution and miscellaneous tax increases on savings, another $63 billion. Tighten estate and gift tax rules, another $94 billion. Miscellaneous tax increases on pass-through reforms, another $2.1 billion for a total of what? Roughly $1.2 trillion just on individual revenue. That's you, okay? That's $1.2 trillion over 10 years. But let's continue. Here's corporate revenue raisers. Corporate taxes, let's raise it to 28. $882 billion over 10 years goes from companies to the U.S. government. Next, raise corporate alternative minimum tax from 15 to 21. $346 billion. 21, GILTI minimum tax rate and other GILTI changes. Another $278 billion. Repeal FDII, you got $92 billion. Section 265, $187 billion. 4% excise tax on stock buybacks, $79 billion. Modifications to 162, limit on deductions of excessive employee remuneration, that's another $265 billion. Miscellaneous corporate tax increase, $34 billion for a total corporate revenue of how much? Another $2.1 trillion. So far, we're at 3.4 trillion. Now, here's other revenue raisers, right? Impose a 25% minimum tax on unrealized gains for, boom, this is the one with $100 million. Look how much it raises. $516 billion. You know what they fear? A guy like Elon Musk becoming too wealthy and buying companies like X, buying companies like, whatever other things he's going to buy. They don't want that kind of control. They want the government to have that control, right? Levy on under-taxed profits, rule on large, $225 billion. Changes on tax compliance and administration, another $24 billion. What's the total here? $766 billion. You know what the total number is? $4.1 trillion over the next 10 years. You know what the question I have for you is? That $4.1 trillion over the next 10 years, who do you trust to do more with that money? The U.S. government or free market, people that are job creators, entrepreneurs? Who do you think will do more with that? The U.S. government, when they decide, let's send $200 billion, $100 billion to Zelensky, Ukraine, you may disagree. You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice. You can't be like, I don't like that. They take certain money and they waste it. We're going to put all these battery plants, we're going to invest $500 million. They got 7-8 locations in the span of how many years? They waste all the money. But it's like $500 million. Oh, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be able to take money back because it's not quantitative tightening is what we're going to do. So we're going to buy back $200 billion every month. How are you going to do? We can just do that. Who cares? We can just do that. So if you can manipulate in those areas, why are you trying to take $4.1 trillion away from our hands to the government? Do you really think that's good for you and your family? You really believe that? You think that's good for the economy? You think that's good for your 401k? You think that's good for your retirement plan, pension plan? You think that that's what they're trying to do with this plan? $21 billion. By the way, if you want the Kamala tax plan, just text us the word taxes to 310-340-1132. We'll send you the link. Again, taxes to 310-340-1132. You'll see it yourself. And by the way, do you know how they manipulate you with this plan to get you to think like this is a good idea? They're like, majority of the people agree that we should tax the people over $100 million in unrealized tax. Of course, it's not their money. Is that supposed to persuade me? Is that supposed to get me to say, oh my God, you're right, because majority agree? Oh yeah, for sure. Imagine I got 6 people living in a house, 4 kids, me and my wife, right? Imagine my oldest son comes and says, well, Dad, majority of people in this house agree that we should eat ice cream every day. No shit, Sherlock. Majority of people in this house are kids. Or imagine these guys are now 18, 19, 20 years old. And they say, Dad, majority of the people in the family agree that we should not pay rent and we should live here. Of course, majority would agree on that because majority are not contributing towards the lifestyle and the costs and the expenses. That's why they would agree on that. So we can't fall for that trap of majority of the people agree on this plan, et cetera, et cetera. They've been doing this for a while, but a plan like this would destroy the U.S. economy. There's a part of me that thinks they use this to scare the crap out of everybody, and then they go behind closed doors to all the hundreds of millions of dollars that they're getting from these billionaires, and they say, listen, these idiots, these low and middle income families don't understand how taxes work. Trust me, Kamala, I don't even know how it works, but they definitely don't know how it works. But I can fool them and scare them that I'm going to come back for you. I'm not. But when I say that, please don't feel bad about it. Just know that I'm still with you, right? Because of course I love my billionaire friends because I need your money. Without you, I'd never get elected. Fair? Cool. All these billionaires, terrible people that I have dinner with every night. Oh my God, it's so uncomfortable when they pay for my foie gras and my Kobe beef and my all this other stuff, right? These are bad people. In front of you, they're bad people. Behind closed doors, they're kissing their ass because without them, they don't get reelected. You got to pay attention to this because it's your money, your kids' money, your family's money if you don't pay attention to it. If you want this entire thing, text it to you. Text us the word taxes to 310-340-1132. Again, taxes to 310-340-1132. We'll send this over to you. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, I got another one I want you to watch, The Myth Behind Rich People. If you've never seen it, click here to watch it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.